Did you see that? The voice of Zylara, the alien huntress, came in sharp whispers over the comms, her heart racing as she watched the scene unfold before her. Impossible, came the voice of Gore, a seasoned hunter who had seen more battles than most could ever imagine. His voice was low and heavy, yet full of disbelief. What just happened? He killed them all in one move. Zylara's breath caught in her throat, her pulse quickening. Not just killed. He annihilated them. That was no mere hunter's instinct. That was something more. The transmission was silent for a long moment, the kind of silence where the weight of what was being said settled over everything. Then, the voice of their leader, Sky, broke through the quiet with his deep, resonant voice. "Are you saying what I think you're saying, Zylara?" he asked, voice tinged with incredulity. "Are you suggesting he's evolved?" Zylara didn't answer immediately, her eyes still glued to the live feed. She had witnessed something extraordinary, and she couldn't shake the feeling that it was only the beginning. "I'm saying, Sky," Zylara replied slowly, "this hunter, this Earthling, has abilities no one on this planet has ever seen before. And I think, just maybe, he's not just some random outcast." It was on a desolate, barren world that these conversations took place, a world far from the glimmering cities of her home planet, Garrix. This world, called Earth, was an enigma to the Zilthi, their enemies and rivals, a race as ancient as time itself. The Zilthi had long sought to explore the furthest reaches of the galaxy, their collective curiosity driving them across the stars. Yet Earth, with all its mysteries, remained locked in their minds as something truly different, something uncharted, unpredictable. Zylara had been tracking the human named Marcus for weeks now. He was the subject of their interest, a bounty hunter of sorts, living among a species known for their unpredictability and primal instincts. She had never before encountered a hunter so capable, so ruthless, yet so efficient. Earth was a planet full of chaos, rife with wars, politics, and constant turmoil. But Marcus wasn't just another wanderer in the chaos. He was something else entirely. His skills were otherworldly, beyond what any human could achieve naturally. Zylara had seen what happened when Marcus entered a battlefield. It was as though he was a force of nature, like a predator who understood the very core of every living thing. She had seen him take down creatures 3 times his size, and not just by brute force. He had an uncanny understanding of strategy, a ruthless mind that saw what others could not. It was something far beyond what any human could achieve. Her fingers trembled as she rewound the last feed. What she saw still took her breath away. Marcus, the lone hunter, had single-handedly decimated an entire group of Zilthi warriors. They had come to Earth for a simple task: capture him, study him, and learn his secrets. But what they hadn't anticipated was that Marcus, though human, was not someone to be underestimated. For centuries, the Zilthi had believed they were the apex predators of the universe, conquering countless worlds and species. But here, on this tiny blue planet, Marcus was something new, something dangerous. And as Zylara observed him, she felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in years: fear. Gore's voice broke her concentration. "Zylara, you're getting too close. We've been instructed to observe, not to engage. Don't forget your mission." Zylara's eyes didn't leave the screen, even as her mind raced with possibilities. "I know my mission, Gore," she snapped back, the usual calm in her voice faltering. "But this man, he's no ordinary human. This is something we've never encountered. I think he could be more than just a weapon. He might be the key to something much greater." There was a pause before Gore responded. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that the Zilthi may have underestimated Earth. And this human, Marcus, might be the one who changes everything." Hours later, Zylara found herself standing on the cold, barren ground of Earth's desert landscape, far from the reach of her mothership. She had tracked Marcus to this remote location, not yet knowing whether to approach him or retreat. But the closer she got, the more she understood that the situation was more complicated than she had imagined. Marcus was standing alone in the distance, his form a mere silhouette against the setting sun. His posture was relaxed, as if he had known Zylara was watching him all along. Her breath caught in her chest. He turned, his piercing gaze locking onto hers, as though he had been waiting for her all along. "You're not from around here," Marcus's voice echoed, though there were no words exchanged. His lips didn't move, but Zylara heard him clear as day. It was as though he had read her thoughts. Zylara took a step forward, her senses on high alert. "Who are you?" Marcus didn't answer at first. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, eyes scanning her carefully. There was something in the way he moved. He was calculating, sizing her up as if she were the prey. "That's a good question," Marcus replied, his voice carrying a weight that seemed beyond human. "But I think the real question is, why are you here?" Zylara hesitated, then made her decision. "I've been sent to observe you, to understand you. You're unlike anything we've encountered." His gaze softened for just a moment, but it was gone in the blink of an eye. "Yeah, I get that a lot. I don't believe you're human," Zylara said, stepping closer. "There's something about you, something primal. You're not just a product of your species." Marcus chuckled, the sound low and gravelly. "Guess I'll take that as a compliment." He paused, his eyes flashing with something unreadable. "So what do you want with me?" Zylara felt the heat of his gaze. She knew he wasn't just asking out of curiosity. Marcus had a strange understanding of the world around him. He wasn't just another predator. He was the apex. "I believe you've evolved in ways no one has seen before. And I believe you could help us." Zylara's voice dropped to a whisper. "You could be more than just a weapon. You could be the key to something much bigger than any of us can imagine." A silence hung between them as Marcus stared at her, his eyes calculating, his expression unreadable. "I think I've heard enough," he said after a long pause, his voice calm, almost bored. "You want to learn about me? Fine. But you'd better be ready to face what you find. Because I'm not who you think I am." Zylara's heart pounded in her chest. She had known the moment she laid eyes on him that Marcus was no ordinary human. But now, standing here with him, in the fading light of the alien desert, she understood the truth of it. Marcus wasn't just a hunter. He was a force of nature. And like any predator, he didn't just survive. He thrived, adapted, and overcame. The real question was, would she survive this encounter? Would she be able to learn from him or fall victim to his evolution? Zylara couldn't answer that yet, but she knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning. The winds of the barren earth desert whistled softly as Zylara stood motionless before Marcus. The world around them felt like a quiet backdrop to the intensity that pulsed between them. She had come to observe, to analyze, to learn what made Marcus different. But now, standing face to face with him, she realized that he was more of a mystery than she could ever have imagined. More than just a predator. He was a force that defied the very logic of her mission. Marcus raised an eyebrow, studying her with a calmness that sent an unspoken challenge to her. He didn't move, didn't even flinch when the distant stars above them flickered with distant life. Zylara couldn't quite read him. His stillness was unnerving, yet his eyes, those eyes, they were old, ancient even, filled with knowledge far beyond his years. He wasn't just a hunter. He had witnessed things, endured things, that no normal human could. "You've come all this way," Marcus said, his voice low and direct. "But I don't think you understand what you're asking for." Zylara's heart raced, her breath catching slightly in her chest. "I don't just want to understand you, Marcus. I need to understand what you are." She couldn't help the desperation that laced her voice. Something inside her knew that he held the answers to questions she hadn't even dared ask before. He tilted his head, studying her for a long while, and for a brief moment, she thought he might laugh. But instead, he spoke again, his tone less guarded this time, almost regretful. "You think I'm different, right? That I'm something more than human. But the truth is..." He paused for a moment, his gaze far away as if reflecting on distant memories. "I'm just a product of survival. I wasn't always like this." Zylara felt a shiver of realization crawl down her spine. She had thought she knew what he was, an evolved human, perhaps even an alien in disguise. But now, in this moment, he was revealing something deeper, something darker. "What happened to you?" she asked, unable to hold back. Marcus glanced at her, his expression hardening, the air around them seeming to thicken. Survival doesn't come easily where I'm from. I didn't just grow stronger. I was forced to evolve. It wasn't something I chose. It was the result of living in a world where everything is out to kill you. Zylara was silent, processing his words. She had heard stories of warriors, beings who had unlocked hidden powers within themselves through necessity or genetic evolution. But Marcus was different. She could see that now. He wasn't like any species she had encountered, even in her many years of hunting. His evolution wasn't the result of technological enhancement or any artificial influence. It was organic, the natural consequence of a life lived on the edge, where every decision meant life or death. You were tested by the harshest conditions of your world, Zylara said slowly, piecing the puzzle together. But you survived because you adapted, because you embraced your instincts and pushed past limits that would have broken anyone else. Marcus nodded, his gaze meeting hers with a cold fire that sent a chill down her spine. It's not just physical strength, Zylara. It's something more. Something deeper. Something that goes beyond the body. He took a step closer, his movements fluid, almost predatory. And you don't know what you're asking for. You think you can understand it, control it, maybe even use it for your own purposes. Zylara's pulse quickened as his words sank in. She had spent years honing her skills, learning the ways of the galaxy's most dangerous beings. But this, Marcus, was something entirely new. And she couldn't help but wonder if she had been wrong to assume he was simply another creature to be cataloged and controlled. You don't know what it's like to face something you can't fight, Marcus continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. To come face to face with a part of yourself that scares the hell out of you. Zylara wanted to speak, to argue that she, too, had faced unimaginable dangers. But something in his eyes told her that no amount of words would ever bridge the gap between them. He had crossed a threshold that no one, not even the Zilthi, could understand. What are you going to do now? Zylara finally asked, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. You could turn against us. You could turn against everything. Marcus's lips curled into a faint smile, but it wasn't one of amusement. I already have, he said, his tone so calm it was almost unsettling. I don't belong to anyone. Not to the Zilthi, not to anyone but myself. He took a final step forward, closing the distance between them. Zylara could feel the air grow heavier, charged with something ancient, something primal. She instinctively took a step back, but his eyes never left hers. The world around them seemed to go silent. The only sound was the faint rustle of the wind, carrying with it the weight of destiny. Zylara could feel the pull of his presence, an almost magnetic force drawing her closer against her will. She was an experienced hunter, capable of facing any challenge, but Marcus was different. He wasn't just a challenge. He was the unknown, the enigma that could change everything. Then, without warning, Marcus raised his hand. Zylara tensed, prepared for whatever might come next. But instead of an attack, he did something unexpected. He offered his hand to her. I'm not your enemy, he said, his voice quiet but firm. But you need to understand something. What you see in me, it's not just strength. It's a force. And forces like that can't be controlled. Zylara hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never been one to trust so easily, especially not a being as complex as Marcus. Yet, something in his words resonated with her. This wasn't just about survival. This was about evolution, about transcending the limitations that governed life itself. You're right, Zylara said after a long pause, her voice filled with a quiet realization. I came here to understand you. But maybe, just maybe, you're not something to be understood at all. Maybe you're something that's meant to evolve on your own, without interference. Marcus lowered his hand, the brief moment of connection gone as quickly as it had come. Exactly. No one gets to define me. Not you. Not the Zilthi. I choose who I am. The silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of their unspoken understanding. Zylara stood there, her mind swirling with 1,000 thoughts. She had come here to learn, to capture something that could be used for the greater good of her people. But in the presence of Marcus, she realized that this was no ordinary hunter. This was something else entirely. A force of nature, a being who could change the course of history. He wasn't just surviving. He was evolving, pushing the boundaries of what it meant to be alive. And perhaps, just perhaps, the universe wasn't ready for the evolution that Marcus represented. Fine, Zylara said, her voice steady once more. But know this, Marcus, I won't stop watching. I will be there when your evolution continues. Marcus's lips twitched in a small, knowing smile. That's your mistake, Zylara. The moment you try to control evolution, it will leave you behind. And with that, Marcus turned away, disappearing into the desert's horizon as if he were nothing more than a mirage. Zylara watched him go, her mind racing with the enormity of what had just transpired. She had come to Earth in search of answers. But what she had found was something far greater, a being who didn't belong to the laws of the universe as she knew them. Marcus was something entirely different, and she had no idea what it meant for the future of her people, her world, or even the galaxy itself. But one thing was certain. Marcus was no mere hunter. He was a force of nature, and the universe was about to change forever.